But I kind of divide it in my brain, at least the way that I digest it before I handle the numbers is I look for quality, I look for content, and I look for craftsmanship. And those things are all kind of they intersect. Whereas I'm not sitting there being, where is the spelling? Where is the grammar?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
is because those things, yeah, like they exist and they're important, but that's not where I begin because I can't fathom it that way. I look for maybe more significant things. And then I go back and I do the breakdown and I sort of, yeah, I follow the rubric. I see, what areas they're excelling in and what need work. But yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby, aka Andrew. Thank you so much for listening to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room podcast. And before you hear today's episode, which I just know you're going to love, can you please do me a favor? And wherever you're listening, if it's Spotify or Apple, please rate and review us. Make sure you're following the podcast. Share it with friends, family, anyone you think would just love hearing this conversation. And you can watch our podcast on YouTube. Yes, we have a YouTube channel. It's called the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and you'll see the video episode. So please make sure you like the video you're watching and comment. I always respond to the comments. Also, we have a Patreon. So if you don't want any of the ads and you want bonus material, join our Patreon. There's a 1 week free trial. It's patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And the free trial is for the professor level. Without further ado, here is today's exciting episode. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby. Welcome back to our Teaching College English and Writing series, joined, of course, with Dr. Jan Balakian, Jan, our trusty co-host. So really excited because this is our first guest who I think holds an MFA in creative writing. I'm pretty sure. So I think it's going to definitely take a really interesting turn. We're
Nice.
joined with Meredith Aristone. She holds her MFA in creative nonfiction from Columbia University and her BFA in creative writing from Pratt Institute. Okay, well, both
Wow.
excellent institutions. She taught and teaches writing at Atlantic County College and Delaware Valley University. I'm excited because she's a South Jersey person like myself originally, and Bucks County. She's the first place winner of the New York City Poetry Contest.
Oh,
2024, congratulations. Her
congrats.
poetry is featured in New York City Poetry Magazine, Wax Poetry and Art Magazine, Cathexis Northwest Press, and Ford's Review. She is the author of Excessive Sodium, a collection of poems for the troubled soul. Oh, I love that. As well as writer and director of the indie short Psych
Hmm.
Idyllic in 2015. Her creative nonfiction work is featured in Pink Disco magazine, Quail Bell magazine, as well as Stained Glass and Thunderstorms for Girls Interrupted, an anti-lifestyle blog for crazy bitches. There you go. And Go magazine. She's currently working on her memoir, Girlhood is the Monster Under My Bed, a story of femininity and vice, and is passionate about finding the magic in the mundane, investigating liminal spaces, and romanticizing her life. Let's manifest all of that. I love that. Okay, well, Meredith, I think we could just end the podcast now. Now, hi, Meredith. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, wow. I mean,
Okay.
what an exciting, interesting, creative journey you've had. I feel like we have to just begin with in the classroom, how much of that creative writing or process impacts your pedagogy?
I would say it impacts it significantly. I tend to start every class with a prompt, no matter what the class is, whether it's comp rhetoric, whether it's a supplemental course. And I just open up the room and I have my students journal for 15 minutes, and respond to the prompt. And I sort of encourage them to be experimental because I believe that having a wide knowledge of genre is very helpful, regardless of what the course is. Um, and yeah, I tend to also find that I encourage creativity even in more research paper based essays because I find that in order to create an effective thesis, students need to be passionate about what they're writing about. And a lot of the times, the passion comes from things like tone and the craftsmanship of sort of maybe adding a personal element to their prose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like we've brought this up in other episodes. I know Jan talks about it a lot, right? Because Jan has written a
One.
play and she
Oh,
wrote a
it's a tough,
screenplay,
No way.
but she's the
Awesome.
creative writer
it's
and
a tough road.
it's a tough road. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Tough road to ride.
and I feel like she always says like that the teaching and your writing, Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, like you don't always feel like it goes hand in hand.
Different
And
different
yeah,
parts of the brain, different parts of the brain, but they can inform your teaching can inform your writing. I think,
yes.
yeah, no, I think so. It's just that what you need to do for creative work is like the other side of the brain. You're originating ideas and not writing about other people's ideas.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, do you feel that, Meredith, that like when you're working on your current memoir, does any of your teaching moments impact, oh, I'm gonna like store that away in
Hmm.
my memoir?
Sometimes I do agree that it is different parts of the brain just because when I'm in the classroom setting, I tend to be hyper focused on what we're doing in the moment, um,
Yes.
and also just student engagement. So I'm not necessarily thinking about my own larger body of work. But I find that when I'm writing creative nonfiction in general, there are moments that will come to me later. Like when I was teaching, maybe it's something a student said, maybe it's something I said to a student, and I find inspiration in that. But yeah, I mean, I think I struggled at first with the thought of like teaching composition because I didn't want this is gonna sound funny, but I didn't want to be bored and I didn't want the class to be boring. And then I very much, I found that there were ways to navigate it so that the confines of academia didn't feel rigid. Like I want to love my job and I want my students to love what they're learning, and I think especially in the contemporary times that we're in, there is a real way to blend creativity into composition courses without necessarily distracting from the course objectives.
Well, and I don't want to assume your generation, but I'm a millennial.
Mhm.
Um, are you a Gen Zer?
Yeah, I'm cusp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very.
I was born in 99, so I'm a cusp. So I'm
Okay, yeah, you're right
You're
on
called,
that
you're
on that
called a cusp.
the cusp
Yeah, the
Gen
cusp.
Zer.
Yeah. I have some traits of both. I think I grew up with both because I was the last generation to grow up with flip phones and like not just automatically having iPhones since birth. I didn't come out of the womb with like an iPad, and I think a lot of the kids today have that. So I think that gives me some perspective that's maybe a little bit different than like total Gen Zers. Um,
And the reason I ask is just like, do you find that with your students, like, are there ways that with technology, you're able to use it effectively that's not, I just find that there are so many useful tools, but also it can become such an addictive element. And like, I'm curious how you approach that as a writer as well.
Oh, 1,000%. I think it is a delicate balance. Because I think too that like Gen Z students, and even you don't have to be Gen Z to experience this, but we are being fed such a rapid surplus of overstimulating information that it sort of
Mm.
becomes like overwhelming and a dopamine addiction. And we're so
Mhm.
used to instant gratification that we are being brought up into this attention deficit. Um, I think though that the world has evolved in such a way that technology is a crucial and important part of the way that we communicate. So it really is about finding a balance. And I often encourage my students, at least, to hold a physical journal, which seems so outdated now, but I really find it grounding and helpful to have a physical journal for my class. And we do
Mhm.
a lot of pre-writing activities in the journal. We respond to the prompts in the journal. We do a lot of things analog, and then maybe the actual longer form writing process happens on the computer because I think like it's inevitable in some senses.
I'm with you. I now, my students have journals, and
Okay.
I never thought I would be doing that, but I think, like you said, the analog process that had been kind of seen as passe is actually now in vogue.
Yeah.
And right,
Everything
it's
circles back.
interesting. Like
Everything
reading out
circles.
loud is now
Yeah.
revolutionary. And
Journals are so back.
they are. And I'm just curious, how do you scaffold that, Meredith? Like, how do you say, like, you give your students 15 minutes to respond to the prompt?
Mhm.
Now what?
Now we are going to facilitate a conversation, which completely, depending on the day, the topic, and the student body, it varies in difficulty. But I open up the room. I tend to keep it very general because I want the students to feel like they have autonomy. So
Mhm.
I invite them to speak and I invite them to interact with me. And I find that when I sort of take the pressure off of it, I'm not like sitting there like this is a timed graded thing and you have to say the perfect thing. I'm like, I just want you to talk to me. I want to create a conversation about the thing that you just wrote about. I mean, you are processing and forming opinions in real time, which is essentially the same thing that you're doing when you're creating a thesis, right? Like I want us to put an emphasis on the importance and the value of communicating in this educated way. And also, not for nothing, like interacting with one another because, especially for my in-person classes, because COVID was such a thing that sort of disrupted the learning process for a lot of people. So I find that when we are face to face, we're reading from our journals, we're responding to each other, we're sort of doing it in this relaxed way, it's very productive.
Hmm. Well, and I think Amina or Jan, if you want to ask your question
I'm gonna
first.
go
Okay.
first.
I was gonna ask how you, like you said, like after COVID, like how do you fight the silence? Like I find like a lot of times in classroom, like the awkward silence
Yes.
goes over the
Yeah.
room. Dr. B and I, like I think I've been in every single one of her lectures, and it's like something we talk about like after every class, like they weren't talking. So what do you do to get
Yeah,
them
no
to
one's
talk?
talking.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, it's really hard because you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but at the same time, you want to let them know that this, college and just this academic space is safe for them to sort of articulate themselves and that it's a crucial part not only of language and writing, but of self-development, right? I tend to come at things with a sort of humorous approach. Humor is everything to me. I find that even if I'm being maybe a little bit funny or self-deprecating, or I'm laughing at the horrors that are happening in the world, I'm like, I'm laughing, and then maybe they feel more safe to contribute because there's less of this serious feeling. Because a lot of students, especially maybe their freshman years were taken from them. And then all of a sudden they're thrown into college as sophomores and they're not sure how to engage. Like I tend to not make a joke of everything, but to have some jokes so that maybe they feel more comfortable opening up. And I've actually had success with that. Just breaking the ice a little bit.
Yeah,
Are
might
you
be.
banning, are you banning computers and phones in class?
So no, I am not, just because I mean, obviously I'm like if you're gonna sit there on your phone like in front of your face, if it is blatantly obvious that you are
Yeah.
ignoring me, like you're wasting my time and you're wasting yours. And I would say something, but the reason that I'm not is because again, I think it's unrealistic. I think that computers are where a lot of the writing process happens. I personally have always written on the computer. I think it would be unrealistic to ask them to do everything in preparation for their essays. On paper, right? And I also tend to tell students that college is sort of the time and the place where they can decide how hard they're willing to work to get their attention span back. So I can make recommendations, I can't make enforcements, right? Like this is their time to learn and to sort of engage in the process of becoming. And anything they can do on their phone, they can do on their computer, right? So it really is up to them what they're willing to work for, and then their grades will reflect that, right?
Mm. And I was having this discussion, I'm curious, Meredith, if you feel this way with my fiance, that the like generation of students that we're now getting, um, because the world is such a shitstorm of
Hmm.
events, that
Yeah.
a lot of it can feel very demoralizing and even like, well, why does it matter? Like, do you feel that you ever get some students who just maybe not that they don't care, but there's just like a lack of enthusiasm? And then like,
Yo,
how do we
Sure.
handle that, trying to invigorate the classroom with enthusiasm, even though we know the world is just chaotic? This holiday season, I'm so excited to talk about my favorite academic publisher, Broadview Press. Broadview Press has just incredible anthologies, classic books, history of literature, philosophy, you name it in the humanities, Broadview Press has you covered. So I've had guests on here like Dr. Jeffrey Andrew Weinstock to talk about his pop culture for beginners book, his Mad Scientist Guide to Composition. He's an incredible horror gothic literary scholar. So definitely listen to the podcast I did with him. I had a vampire literature discussion, a wonderful Wizard of Oz conversation. So always so many exciting Broadview Press guests that I have on, and I have a few new episodes coming out soon this holiday season, all about how to teach writing and composition. So look out for them. And there's a few books that I definitely want to highlight. So make sure you have on your radar Broadview Press's new anthology of science fiction, a book about original inquiry, a guide to research for undergraduates. I mean, when I'm teaching my students the research essay, definitely, I could use that book. Good Reasoning Matters, a guide to critical thinking in a digital age. Okay, well, I hope to talk to all of these editors, but yes, we definitely need critical thinking in this digital age. I keep saying we need to have courses in college for social media literacy to understand what is going on these apps. So that's called Good Reasoning Matters. And then the last book is Solving the Puzzle, A Student's Guide to Historical Research and Writing. These are all incredible books to assign your students, specifically in any kind of literary or humanities research-based course, which almost every humanities course now is research-based. Also, Broadview Press is interested in hearing from librarians. So if you're a librarian or you know a librarian, please take down this information. There is a new subscription called Broadview Digital Bookshelves, which gives you access to over 450 critical editions of literary classics from Beowulf to Virginia Woolf, all for one affordable price. Again, that's over 450 editions of literary classics. Go to ebooks at broadviewpress.com. So if you're even just a classic literature lover, check out Broadview Digital Bookshelves. Okay, I hope you all enjoy Broadview Press, and I have a 20% off code for you all. It is Ivory Tower, right? Ivory Tower at the checkout, and you will receive 20% off all Broadview Press orders.
Are you a fan of classic Hollywood movies?
Are you a fan of queer cinema?
Then do we have the podcast for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Garcia.
And I'm Luke Del Mar.
And we are your hosts of That Old Gay Classic Cinema, where we take a look at some of the greatest films of all time and analyze them through a queer theoretical lens.
Let's be honest. LGBTQIA plus people have been a part of Hollywood since its inception, and this podcast celebrates those artists and entertainers of yesteryear while also taking a closer look at the queer-coded characters and stories in classic Hollywood films long before queer representation entered the mainstream.
So follow us down the road of classic cinema as we give you a guide to some of the films that touched our hearts brains and even gave us courage to be ourselves.
You can listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
All right, listeners, we're ready for our close-up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it is overwhelming for students. I think, yeah, I do think we get our fair share of little nihilists. I mean, I tend to try to meet their apathy with information. So
Information, you said? Information?
Meet
I
their
said,
apathy.
yeah, to meet their apathy with information. And by that, I mean, if they are confused, why should it matter? Maybe I'll give them some resources to look at. Maybe we will watch some TED Talks specifically
Mm.
about what they are worried about or upset about. And I will, maybe offer them some prompts. A lot of what I do is self-discovery based, and I help them figure out what they care about. So if they think nothing matters, maybe we can examine their personal interests and find out what does matter. What does matter to you? What would you do about it? If you had the power to do something, this is a huge thing I do actually. I do a research paper where we face the issue head on. And I say to the students, what is the biggest crisis right now in the country or in the world that you are the most upset about? And then we sort of take that frustration and turn it into interest. And I let them sort of research this crisis, tell me what's wrong with it, give me all of the context, explain it to me like I don't know, right? Like put it into a paper and then give me their opinion on it. And what would you do about it if you had the power to do something, if you were in government, in office? And I think that this restores some autonomy to them, even though they may feel helpless. I think this exercise in writing, it gives them information, and information feels like control a little bit.
Information feels like
Yeah,
control.
do you feel that the administration's insistence that we pour our courses into these formulaic, what are they called? Simple syllabi, interferes with your creativity that you want to do in the classroom?
Yeah, definitely. I've been really lucky. A lot of the admin that I've worked with have let me have a little bit of elasticity in my classes. And that was also sort of after proving myself. And I don't mean to be like, I taught the best class ever, but I had such incredible student engagement and student written responses that my boss at Atlantic actually reached out to me and he was like, you have received so much praise from your students. Like, what are you doing? It's working. And I think not that I'm anti-formula, but a little bit. I think that formula is oppressive. I think that
Is
it's oppressive. We don't need that in these contemporary times. I mean,
terrible.
to be an educator, you have to know what you're talking about. You also have to make a lot of sacrifices, right? So we're not just bullshitting. So I think that the
Mm.
administration, if anything, needs to trust their educators more and to respect that maybe we don't need a strict formula for what every syllabus has to look like because progress looks different in a lot of different ways, you know?
Yeah, I get my syllabus thrown back for mechanical reasons all the time. And I'm thinking of Martin Scorsese, who says when he was continues to make films, he would make one to satisfy the studio and another one to do what he wanted to do.
Oh
And I
Mm.
yeah.
feel like that's what we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case with so many, you hear so many cases of like artists even who are like, I'll make music for me and then I make music for what I think I'm supposed to do. And
Yeah.
then, the song gets released, the one that the artist was sure about and then that like the label wasn't sure about, and then it blows up because, you can't create a formula for what people like, there's something very human. And I feel like it almost like removes the humanity to have such a strict and rigid expectation for what's allowed to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And our
Uh,
students want authenticity, I feel.
yeah.
Like, not saying we should be an open wound of like, relatability with our students, because I think like there is a danger if we um see them as our friends, right? But something I'm curious about is like you've had training at Columbia and Pratt and then taught at a community college and are about to teach at a state university. Is like, have you noticed a difference just when you were a student between the classroom dynamics at either Columbia or Pratt compared to like you now embodying the role as a teacher?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. And I think a lot of things go into it. I think with something like art school, at least when I went to Pratt and Columbia as well, honestly, everyone really, really wanted to be there. And they were really, really passionate and it was very field specific. And I think that sometimes in community college environments, students come to community college because maybe they didn't know what else to do, or this is what they were told that they were supposed to do. I've had
Mhm.
students who came for like money reasons, like they got a payout if they came to college. And then it sort of felt like it was my job to convince them why this was a worthwhile place to be. Um, and so the dynamic of the classroom, I take that seriously, meaning I need the classroom to feel alive and engaging. And just like what you said, it's absolutely not that we should be creating a friendship with our students. There should still be professionalism and boundaries and respect. But I do think that people can smell bullshit. And I think that authenticity is so propulsive. Um, and yeah, I mean, I take it very seriously being able to convince my students to stay and
Mhm.
to continue with this journey and to sort of show them too what doors it can open for them once they sort of get on these paths of self-discovery and of passing my class and, going on and on and on.
How do you approach, Meredith, the issue of grading? Like, I'm just curious, as such a creative person, I feel like grading is so rigid and you would probably fight against it just internally.
Mm.
But
Do you
maybe I'm
use
wrong.
do you use rubrics for creative work? I would think
Um,
so.
no, I don't use a formal rubric for creative work, but I do
Hmm.
follow my department's rubric for 101 classes and composition stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not a math person, so that part's extremely tedious. But I kind of divide it in my brain, at least the way that I digest it before I handle the numbers is I look for quality, I look for content, and I look for craftsmanship. And those things are all kind of they intersect. Whereas I'm not sitting there being, where is the spelling? Where is the grammar?
Yeah.
Where because those things, yeah, like they exist and they're important, but that's not where I begin because I can't fathom it that way. I look for maybe more significant things and then I go back and I do the breakdown and I sort of, yeah, I follow the rubric. I see, what areas they're excelling in and what need work. But yeah, grading it's very difficult when you have, I guess mentally when you see things in a more abstract, larger way. But I do follow rubrics for 101s and then creative work, I give written feedback and there's not a strict rubric.
Mm. I feel like it would be negligent if I didn't ask you this, Meredith, which, if you're not comfortable answering it, I
Go for
completely
it.
understand. But I'm just curious, as like a young woman in the classroom, like as a professor, do you feel that you've had to navigate that in a way
Yeah.
because students might challenge that position?
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people challenge that position. When I first
True.
became a professor, I remember I had an older student who was in community college and I had met her husband. She was like, "Oh, this is my husband." And this was right outside of the classroom. And he looked at me and he said, "You're not a professor." And I'm like laughing because I'm like, "Well, I quite literally am. I just taught your wife all semester." And he's like, "Oh, well, how can you be a professor? Like you're so young and pretty." And I'm like, I didn't
Well,
realize these things were mutually exclusive, right? I think and I've actually written nonfiction essays about this. I'm not
Mm.
plugging my own work. I'm just
no,
saying this.
please, no, plug your work. What is it? Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh, I just write about it a lot. Like I've been in various places in my Substack and stuff, just like the concept of feeling like I'm not as valid in the academic world because I am blonde and 26 and I wear fun makeup and I like to express myself in a unique way in the way I dress. I'm also queer, right? Like there are lots of moving pieces here and it's kind of it's dehumanizing in some ways to feel like because of my exterior that I have to fight for the right to be taken seriously when I've done all the same education as anyone else. And And I have had students, yeah, sort of, thankfully not intensely sexualize me, but I've had students hit on me. I
Mhm.
My partner is a woman. I'll just say I'm a lesbian woman, I'm queer, and I've had students like really, and I've mentioned that in passing, of course, and I've had students, I had one male student email me and say, "It is so hot that you're married to another woman."
Oh
Uh,
my goodness. Oh
Whoa.
my goodness.
Wow, that is really inappropriate.
Really inappropriate,
Really
really
inappropriate.
inappropriate. But I think again, like my age and the way I look, people think like I'm.
Yeah, but look at your evaluations. They belie this. So I think that you're maybe they do take you very seriously.
Well, yes. I think that, you engage the class so much, but you're saying it seems like you're kind of suggesting, Meredith, that because of your age, like they think they can relate and you're going to
Yes,
be fine accepting that type of
yes, certain students.
harassment, which is what it
Yes.
is.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I have a lot of students that are phenomenal, and
Yeah.
most of them are. But yeah, there are certain students or certain people who don't believe that I have the career that I have, and things like that that are frustrating because I care so much about this, and I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it. I didn't go to 6 years of writing school and then get into the field of education because I'm not. You know what I mean? So.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah, for the most part. But mostly everyone's great. Those have been some challenges, though, I will say.
Yeah. Do you feel like you face any type of obstacles from faculty, or has it been more just like what you've already expressed about fellow like students of yours who challenge?
Um, yeah, it's mainly been students. Faculty, again, I've been very lucky. Especially my bosses and like my department heads, they've been really, really great. I had one experience where, I mean, it was a co-faculty that I didn't know. I came in to ask her a question about some tech, like something wasn't working, and she was like, "Go ask your professor." And I was like,
Oh my God.
yeah. That was a couple years ago now. But yeah, no, for the most part, everyone faculty wise has been really, really great and really supportive and encouraging and really helping me, just helping me in any way they can.
Are there tenure track positions for creative nonfiction writers out there? Because I don't know if there is or
I actually don't totally know the answer to that because I mean, I think that there might be, but it might be disguised under a different title. Or like you maybe if you were tenure track creative nonfic, you would still teach some
teach
composition.
comp. Yeah. Because I know my fiction writer friends all teach comp, or I shouldn't say all, the ones that I know.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I'm
seems
not.
like composition is the
Is the
well,
way to
it's
get
the largest
to put food on the table while you do your real passion.
yeah. But well, that is um I think a great segue though, Jan, bringing that up is, are there texts like that you're inspired to teach because of just your passion for creative nonfiction, or like authors that you get excited to teach because of
Great question.
the training you've had? This holiday season, not only am I wearing as many holiday sweaters as I can, but I'm reading as much as I can. I've made a commitment for my holiday New Year's resolution, which is read as much as I can in my free time. So, of course, I'm holding the Gay and Lesbian Review's new magazine for the holiday season. It is called Ethnographic Journeys, and it just covers so many exciting topics. Okay, it covers the Two Spirit journey, it covers caste and gender in India. It covers gender identities in Native African societies, culture clash in South Africa. So many wonderful film, TV reviews. If you have never gotten your hands on the Gay and Lesbian Review, you have some catching up to do. So I'm so happy because I have a promo code you can all use. It is ITBR Choice. You get a free issue of the magazine. So make the November December issue your free magazine issue. And those over at the Gay and Lesbian Review has shared really exciting news. Until February 15th, they are accepting applications for their Writers and Artists grant. So the Gay and Lesbian Review is asking all writers and artists out there to bring their perspective, ideas, and voices to the magazine to help support emerging and unpublished LGBTQ writers, thinkers, scholars, and artists. How can you apply? Go to glreview.org. While you're there, make sure you get your hands on their new issue of their magazine. The GNLR is an incredible space for history, culture, politics, LGBTQ themed. It's where I get my book recommendations, my film recommendations, my TV recommendations, shows that are happening in New York City that are queer themed. Let's just say I'm about to see Messy White Gaze, and I know, actually, my friend who I've had on the podcast just wrote a review on it, and it's going to come out soon. So keep your eyes out. Remember, ITBR Choice promo code. Use it when you subscribe to either the print or the online edition.
Ooh, that's a really fun question. Yeah, absolutely. I've actually every year since I've been teaching a unit on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Anna Delvey. She was
Oh,
this
yeah.
Eric who like fooled. Yeah,
Write this
I
down.
teach like the Cut articles about that and like the New Yorker articles about that, and I have the students read those long form bodies of nonfiction and then form theses on Anna Delvey.
Is there anything in particular that comes to mind about a class that really set them on fire?
These reviews were from my 101 and composition students at Atlantic Community.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was again because we're incorporating creative elements. Like I find that I get the most positive response when I am incorporating creative elements. I mean,
Mm.
I just think like if it's so dull that like even I'm bored
Yes.
teaching it, they're
Yes.
going to be bored learning it. And I think too that like that doesn't exciting does not mean unproductive or that we're like just screwing around, right? There is a lot of productive work happening. Just because we're
Yes.
not doing the same work from like the early 1900s does not mean that it's less valuable and worth it. Like I think that every industry changes with the times, and education is no different.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to address, or have you addressed social media in a composition way? Like, and if you do, Meredith, like, what does that look like in your teaching?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in a composition way, we've done the classic, does technology unite or divide us conversation? And we sort of, through our essays, make an enemy out of social media or make a friend out of social media. And I've had students defend both sides. I've given them resources. Because there are plenty of directions to go with that as well. Like we sort of talk about the dangers of it. Maybe it's a safety issue, right? Maybe it's a bullying issue. Maybe it is the only way that you connect with someone you love across the world, right? So
Mm.
we sort of do it that way. But yeah, I do teach an essay in comp that asks that question. Does technology divide us or bring us together? And tell me why and tell me how. And I also allow some narrative elements to that. I'm like, if they want to tell me a personal story of why they can't live without their phone and why it makes a meaningful difference in their life, then go ahead and give me your examples, right? Or on the flip side, maybe they got addicted to their phone and they were comparing themselves to other people, right? So I try to, yeah, I really have them write that essay and look at it from either angle.
Mm. So I think we wouldn't be a conversation if we didn't end on the elephant, which is AI. And I'm just curious, as a composition professor, as someone who you probably know, maybe you knew those even at Columbia or Pratt using AI. I'm not sure. Um, like how have you navigated that? And like, do you really think it's as serious an issue as faculty make it out to be?
Um, I mean, I think AI is and can be an impediment to critical thought just because students, especially recent students, like not so much even a decade ago when I was in school, but students are sort of relying on AI to do the cerebral heavy lifting of structuring an essay and deciding what order they want to put things in. And so I do think it's an issue, but I also think it is blatantly obvious when it's being used. I mean, obviously we have things like Turnitin and softwares to detect that, but like if we do a diagnostic day, right? A diagnostic essay, even if we do a diagnostic paragraph, if I talk to you and I know you as a person, right? Like I know the ways in which you articulate yourself, and it's very different than this standardized
Mm-hmm.
robot option. So I don't think it's hard to detect. I think that I think it's plagiarism. Um, I think it's plagiarism, and I think it creates laziness, unfortunately, and it also creates lifelessness. It takes the humanity out of writing. So I just tell my students, like, for me personally, that's not acceptable. Don't let me catch you using it. You'll fail the essay if you use it. It's probably like, you know what I mean? I'm like, don't make this a longer conversation than it needs to be, like between myself and them, because I'm like, if you use it, I'll know. I'll catch you and I'll know and I'll fail you with peace and love.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that it's been difficult to engage students in the act of reading? Because I do feel like reading and literacy has really, like, probably even since you were in college, there's just been such a going away from that solo act.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. Because again, like we have such fast, all of the time stimuli that sort of replaces that for people, both in an academic sense and as a hobby. And I do think it's harder. And I think that length expectations are different, even though the class level is technically the same. Like a 101 should be at the same level today that it was 10 years ago. But if you try to assign maybe a longer body of work in a shorter period of time, I think the reaction is a lot different. I think that's unheard of for them. And they're almost pissed off. They're like, how dare you expect me to
Oh,
be.
Amina, you said the opposite, didn't you, Amina, last time?
What did I say?
You said that you wish that your professors would assign long novels.
I love that. I mean,
And
I
I
wish
wish that
more
they would
students said that.
exercise
That's why she's a
people.
star.
Well, Amina is also one of those students who are, from everything Jan has said, like the student who is always putting above and beyond, like wants to keep reading and researching and might
Um,
not be, is not our, uh, the norm of a composition student.
yeah. Well, that's
But if
incredible.
you could give
I need you in my class.
give them, challenge them, flex their brains, make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
Well,
oh I asked this question to someone else, which is if let's say you want to teach a contemporary fiction course and you want to introduce them to some weighty writers like Rushdie, Virginia Woolf, etc. How do you feel as a creative writer about assigning sections as opposed to the whole, which is what anthologies do?
I think assigning sections is absolutely appropriate, especially because it sort of
Yay. I kind of
allows.
feel that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it just allows for an intermission to sort of discuss, and it's not too overwhelming, to where any work done relating to the assigned reading, like they wouldn't be able to engage because they read the beginning so long ago, you know? I would assign it in sections if I were going to assign a long, long book.
mm,
Nice.
yeah.
I feel that way, and a lot of people actually pushed back when I presented it for course approval that I needed to assign the whole of Midnight's Children, and I just thought, I don't know. We only remember certain passages anyway, but I don't know if I'm being anti-intellectual here.
No,
No,
I don't think so.
It's like the Whitman sampler box or something.
Well, I think it's also right if they're really a student who is excited by that literature, they're going to want to read the whole anyway on their
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, I don't think that forcing the whole class or right, we just don't have time. A lot of it is time. Like, I mean, right, Meredith, like, can you assign a whole novel in your composition course?
no, I cannot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then,
So,
so then the question becomes, should we be assigning only short fiction? What do you feel?
I think that's course dependent. I think for a composition course, I'm probably not assigning much fiction just because it is so writing heavy.
mhm.
I think in a different kind of literature course, it would depend what the space looked like, right? Like how much space do I have? How long is the class? What is my student population? Is this
Mhm,
chosen? Is this required? Is
mhm.
this random? So yeah, a lot of that would go into it. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a way to assign longer work in segments.
Yeah, I feel that way. Beginning, middle, end.
Yeah.
Well, and you're right. Like, if the goal is to teach the rhetorical modes of persuasion, you can't teach fiction because you're
Mm,
operating under different rules when it comes
Yeah.
to analysis. And
mhm.
yeah, and then it confuses the class. And but I love what you're saying, the TED Talks. I think it's, do you ever, I know we're like getting to the end, but do you, thank you for your time, Meredith, first. Um,
Yeah.
do you ever feel that you'll stop what you thought you were going to do in class? Because I think about this and you're just
Mm,
like, you know what? This isn't working. Like,
yeah.
what do you all want to analyze right now? Like, do you ever throw it onto the students and really see what they want to do with that lesson?
All of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, all of the time. Because um, again, like I like a conversational mode of learning. So I very much do ask them, what do you want to talk about? If you're not willing, like I'll ask them questions and I'll have things prepared. And I'll say, if you're not willing to talk about this, what are you willing to talk about, right?
Hmm.
What part of this excites you enough to birth a discussion? Yeah,
Okay.
all of the time I find myself sort of switching gears from what I had initially planned just based on the reaction that I'm getting. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I ask you that because it's something Jan taught me was as my mentor, the importance of discussion learning, of the Socratic method, of, a collaborative space, of continuously, Jan would just, and I'm sure she does it to you, Amina, but like she just primes questions like from A to B to C to D. It's just going, going,
That's because
going.
I wanted
And
to learn from you, Andrew.
well, no, but I think it's an incredible pedagogy. And like Meredith, when I don't know if you were taught similarly, but I feel like I was kind of taught where I had Jan's model and then I had the lecture model or the,
I'm
okay,
surprised.
this is what's in the anthology and you're going to have to read this and this and this. And I don't care if you understand it as a class or not. We just have to get through the material. Like,
Yeah.
You had that in graduate school?
oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Hmm.
It's usually the other way around.
Well, no, not in grad school. I'm saying at Kane.
Oh, the survey courses, you mean?
Some of this, well, some survey, some other courses too. But, and I'm not saying that it's not helpful. I just think there can be a beauty, I think, in getting to everything, but also I like what you're saying, Meredith, which is kind of liberating the classroom
Yeah.
of, you know what, we're not going to probably get to everything that I thought I was going to get to, and that's
Mm.
okay. Like, you know what? You're all teaching me right now what
Yeah.
you want to learn. And that
Yeah.
can be hard to do because it's like you have to let go of what we're holding on to dearly, like what we really know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be willing to be, I don't want to say wrong, but willing to be shown a different direction in the classroom. And I think that's the most productive use of time. And I think that's far more productive than simply getting to everything. Because there's not really much of a point in getting to everything if we're not collectively understanding it.
Well, I think it's also like, in my opinion, a difference between a collaborative professor and like a student-centered professor. And an egotistical professor, like
Hmm.
someone who just wants to show that they know every exact word of whatever their specialty is. Like, I'm going to teach you all as students that I'm
Hmm.
an expert and I'm going to pat myself on the back,
Yeah.
which I just don't have time for. But
No,
that's,
not at all.
I'm just not interested in the lecture model. I think it's
I mean,
really
I mean,
outdated, and I think it's a
yeah.
very self-flagellation of teaching.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, to be
And
honest.
as an anxious undergraduate, I'm embarrassed to say, long for those lectures because I felt like, oh, now I have a body of knowledge. But as you can see, I moved away from it because it doesn't really teach critical thinking, but it models, I mean, it has one function in that it models how the expert can do a close reading, but I'm so grateful to hear that you don't like it because I was saying yesterday, I always felt guilty in not doing what my old white professors did. They were up there at the lectern. I don't know how it was at Pratt and Columbia, but up at the lectern, and then you just took note. I felt like I could have been a secretary by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they still doing that at Pratt and Columbia, Meredith?
I had one, yeah, I had one
Oh.
lecture that at Columbia. I think you could choose them. Like you could choose to either take lecture style or seminar. Like
Oh,
you
really?
Oh, wow, that's
well, you
interesting.
could choose the model, right? Like there were lectures offered and there were seminars offered. So
I
you just
love that model.
yeah,
That's really
I
interesting.
think it was mandated that you did have to take one or two lectures like at your time there.
For
But
creative writing? I don't know how you would have a lecture.
yeah, creative writing because just fiction lectures, like reading, assigning books, and then he would lecture on the book and like do
Oh,
essentially
wow.
essentially do yeah, like the expert's close read.
It
So
seems like though that wasn't necessarily your passion
it was
as a
not.
style. As a style.
No,
I
it
mean,
was
it's
not.
easier. It's definitely easier. So I admire the students who like the dialogue.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I think the lecture, um, the students are let off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
free ride. It's a free ride.
I
Yeah.
mean, you just there's not much. You don't have to engage at all, really, if you don't want to. There's only a couple students who ask questions in the lectures that I was in, and then like admittedly like I might be working on something else because the
Yeah.
lecture was just so long. It was like you know
But
um
Amina, you said you loved it when Gruser lectured. He's a very gifted scholar. He's unusual in that he's truly a scholar. But
mm,
I
you told me you liked it, right?
I didn't know if we were going to name drop him, but I surely was thinking of him the entire time. I think it's because we always call him Dr. B and I always call him the encyclopedia. Like he just
oh
knows
But that's not his
everything.
only mode. Yeah.
He's so passionate, but I think he does this really great blend of
Yes.
lecture and
He does a
Mhm.
blend.
passionate. Like he
Yeah.
might go for a little bit, but he also knows his audience. Like we can't be robots the entire time. So then he does pass the baton at a certain point in the lecture, but then the stakes feel really high because he knows everything. So like he's checking your bullshit if you're not delivering when you speak. So then it kind of
Yeah.
feels like a little intimidating, but he's a joy to listen to. So I think it's just about, you know, during that ad drop period, finding the lecturer that you really can tap into. I personally adore Dr. Gruser, so I think that I
Yeah.
could listen to him personally, like do the Walt Whitman bit all day, but maybe it's not for everyone.
Yeah, like
Everyone's
I
different.
enjoy that he also, because I had him, and as a Whitman scholar and uh like American lit scholar of the 19th century, like that, I was really inspired by him. But he also like assigns each student a presentation day,
Yes.
and they have to ask questions to the class. So I feel
okay,
like
so that's
that's a little different. I guess like when I think
Yeah.
traditional lecture, Jan, I don't think Dr. Gruser. I think traditional lecture, like you don't ask this class any questions. Because
Oh, that's really unbalanced. Okay.
like I saw when I was a TA at Stony Brook in my PhD program, I saw someone who like if a student asked a question, it was an impediment. Like you were impeding their lecture.
Oh,
Like
wow.
they,
That
they
really
were like
surprises
annoyed.
me.
No,
That's
no, like it
surprises me.
still exists. Like they'll be annoyed that you even interrupt them.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I think like in my opinion, that's not helpful. But and I'm
That
definitely
takes a
not
lot
going to
of
name drop
pressure. It
that.
takes a lot of pressure off
I'm
of.
not name dropping anyone on that model. Um, but Meredith, I feel like you've just given so much
Thank you.
nourishment of education. Like this is so fascinating. I think we needed someone who has that creative writing, that like almost Gen Z perspective. Like you really have such an interesting way of blending pedagogy. And I know like I'm definitely gonna take your 15-minute, I'm gonna try it in my composition course.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
15-minute like writing prompt and just see what happens with the students. Oh, how can everyone, if you have
Oh,
social
yeah,
media you
contact.
want to drop or
Um,
anything where they can
Email.
find you?
sure, yeah. So I have a Substack blog. It's called Stuck in Motion.
Okay.
Um,
Stuff. Motion.
and then my Instagram is the same. It's at Stuck in Motion, but the O's are zeros. And
Ooh,
I
okay.
I post updates on my writing and where I'm getting published and stuff like that. So
Oh,
yeah, Stuck
good.
in Motion pretty much everywhere.
So
Well,
not a regular email?
So what?
Not a regular email?
I do have a regular email. Yeah, I can be reached at my first and last name at Gmail,
okay.
Meredith Aristone at gmail.com. That's my primary email, just kind of like for everything. Um,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good, Meredith. Well, thank you so much. This was a pleasure, and I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna follow you from the podcast Instagram. So,
Oh my gosh,
And yeah,
amazing. Thank
send
you
us
so
out
much. Thank you
when
so
you
this
much for
is
having me.
when
excellent.
you have your work published, or if you're doing readings in New York, send us
Yes. Let us
notices.
know. Let us
Oh,
know.
absolutely, I will. Thank you so much, you guys. This was awesome. Thank you for having
Oh,
Yes.
me.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.